Communications in project management is critical if we must achieve project success. Effective communication in project management is critical if we must achieve successful project execution. And one thing about communication is that communication starts with the beginning and ends with the close. So it's all through the project. It runs all through the project. And as a project manager, one of your key roles in project management is communication. One of your key roles is project communication. So it is important that we then know what project communication is all about and then how to work it out effectively, right? How to work it out effectively. Now, by the end of this session, we will be able to identify the trends in project communication management. We'll also be able to discuss the tailoring considerations in project communication management. We'll explain the processes involved in project communication management and discuss applications of project communication management. So these are all of the things we are going to be looking at. By the end of this program, we should have achieved. By introduction, project communications management includes the processes necessary to ensure that the information needs of the project and its stakeholders are met through development of artifacts and implementation of activities designed to achieve effective information exchange. Project communications management consists of two parts. The first part is developing a strategy to ensure communication is effective for stakeholders. And then the second part is carrying out the activities necessary to implement the communication strategy. So we have two important aspects here, which is the aspect of developing strategy to ensure communication is effective for stakeholders. That means we have to identify stakeholders and then ensure that the strategies we are building up, they are effective for each of the stakeholders. And then we have the second aspect, which is to implement the activities that are in the communication strategy so as to ensure effective communication. Now, the following activities are, before we go to that next slide, if you were to be a project manager, in which areas do you think this project communication will be most needed? In which areas, you are a project manager, in which areas of project management or in which areas of project, what activities involved in projects do you think are the areas where communication is most effective? Like in this area, if we miss communication, we miss out. If we miss communication here, we miss out. So let's have the chat room information coming in. And if you wish to raise your hand and give a voice to that, that would be so much appreciated. In which areas do you think, if you were to be a project manager, which areas do you think communication will be most needed? If your hand is up, that would be awesome. It will reduce time. We'll say it fast and move forward. If you're typing, then can we do that faster? Okay, so someone says planning, another one says iterative. Okay, so is it in iterative activities? So in planning, Mr. Nasiru says, it is very important that we communicate during planning. Mr. Damu says, it's very important that we communicate with stakeholders and also communicate risks. Okay, which other areas do we think we need? Communication is very needed. In change requests, thank you so much. When making changes, communication needs to be effective. Okay, yes, Mrs. Esther Ojo, we know that project communication management is in all through the project, but we are trying to highlight some of the areas that communication calls for an essence. Effective communication is needed. Okay, so let's look at what we have here. The following project activities require effective communication. Number one, when we are negotiating contracts, effective communication is needed. If communication is not effective in this area, you might lose out in the contract. And not just negotiating contract, from contract tendering, proposal tendering, to presentations, to negotiating the contracts. Communication is very, very important. Communication is very, very important. Last week on Making a Digression, I spoke about the important things that we must have in mind when going for contracts. All right, I spoke about some of those things, especially when proposing, when making presentations, contract presentations. All right, so that is all very, very important. And in eliciting requirements in project is also very, very important. Now, these communications are two-way. They are 360 degrees communication from the stakeholders and from the project team, from the internal and the external stakeholders. All right, so in defining requirements for projects, in summarizing requirements for projects, it is very, very important. Then in developing project plans, in delegating tasks, make sure that the duties to be delegated are clear enough for the person you're delegating to. Then identifying risks, reporting project progress, conducting meetings, tracking progress, sharing changes with team members. All of this, the effective communication is not just limited to this, but these are some of the areas, some of the project activities that communication must be effective. If not, we miss out. The project communications management processes are of three. We have three processes in project communications management. So we have the plan communication management, we have managed communications, and then we have monitor communications. Plan communications management, manage communications, and then monitor communications. Now, I will need you to do something for me. Can we all type the processes in the chat room? Can we type the processes? Just type one. Everybody, just type one. The one that comes to your mind, or the one that is very easy to your fingers. Just type it in the chat room. Type in the chat room. We have the plan project communication management. We have manage communication, and then we have monitor communications. So can you type the one that is closest to your fingers? Plan communication management, thank you. Can we have the next one? Manage management. Please kindly check what you've typed. Kindly check what you've typed, sir. Manage communications, thank you. Then the last one, please. Monitor communication. All right, thank you so much. So let's proceed. By the end of this class, we would have taken time to look at each of these processes, and then we'll look at the inputs, the tools and techniques, and the outputs of each of these processes, right? Okay. But as an introduction, these are the major processes, or the three basic processes we'll be discussing in this class. Now, let's quickly look at the key concepts for project communications management. Communication is the exchange of information, whether it is intended or involuntary, whether it is intended or unintended. Now, if it is intended or even involuntary, our assignment is to make sure that the communication is effective. All right, the communication is effective. Now, can someone give us some examples of intended communications and involuntary communication? Can someone give us examples from the chat room? Let's have it very fast. Examples of intended communication and involuntary communication. Can someone help us? Example of intended. Anyone you're writing, just write maybe example intended. You then give the example. If you wish to use the raising of hands, please, you can also raise your hand, and then we can do it very fast. Intended communication and involuntary or involuntary communication. Can someone give us some examples, please? Please, we need those examples very, very fast so that we understand what we are saying. Examples of intended communication and examples of involuntary communication. Is someone with me? Please, if you're still with me, can you type 1 in the chat room? Okay, so we have men raising their hands to God. So let's have Engineer Gospel. Kindly unmute and let's hear from you. Engineer Gospel, are you there?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, sir. You are loud and clear.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, involuntary, I will put it as emotion.
Okay.
Emotion, sometimes the way we communicate our emotion and involuntary, but it still communicates something.
All right. Thank you so much. So emotions.
I think that's the place I go and stuff for now. That's where I can talk about the involuntary. Thank you.
Okay, so emotional display. Yes, what you said is right. Wonderful. Then from the why emotions or display of disposition of emotions are involuntary? Because sometimes we did not intend to work in such ways. We did not intend to dispose such emotions at the time, but we actually did. Okay, the smileys we give, the frowning faces we give, all of them are communicating some kind of emotions. The kind of worried faces we give, anxious face, or the kind of works we put up sometimes, they are communicating some things. And sometimes we hear people ask us questions like, what is wrong with you? Are you okay? So those are telling us that we are really communicating. Then from the chat room, we have intended communications like assigning duties. That's awesome. Thank you. And then intended communications like conducting meetings. That's also awesome. I was expecting this chat room to be filled up by now. So we also have things like reports, writing of reports, okay, sending of emails, okay. They are all intended. Training, having team training, they are all intended, okay. Like the other side, especially things that have to do with emotions, displays and all of that, character displays and all of that, are more often unintended. And some of the things we do in mentoring sessions or coaching sessions, they are unintended. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so quickly, let's move forward. The information exchange can be ideas, instructions, or emotions, like someone says. The mechanisms by which information is exchanged can be in form of written form, which can either be physical or electronic, spoken form, which can either be face-to-face or remote, formal or informal, which can be on papers or social media, through gestures like tone of voice and facial expressions, through media like pictures, actions, or even just the choice of words. Then choice of words. There is often more than one word to express an idea. There can be subtle differences in the meaning of each of these words and phrases. Okay, can someone give me an example of one word that based on expression, it can mean two different things and it can communicate two different emotions, positive and negative emotion? Can someone give us an example? I think giving a voice will be better of it this way. Can you tell us an example of where one word can be can create positive vibes and at the same time can create negative vibes based on maybe tone of voice or based on the particular situation at hand? Okay. So can someone help us? Example of a word that can mean two things if used in different contexts. Can someone help? Can you help us with an example of a word that can communicate two different emotions or communicate two different things? Okay, so I have a hand up. Just one hand will be enough. All right, please kindly unmute, sir, and let's hear from you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, let me use my feet because there's something I did someday. I believe it will suit here. Okay, I remember one day I was in a lab, I was fixing a light, wiring a house. So I called my second and I yelled the way I want him to pick something for me. I yelled, I shouted at him. I said, pick that thing for me. So with the tone of my voice, he got offended. He's like, why are you shouting? Why are you shouting? So instead of communicating it in a very choice of manner, like, please help me to pick it. It would have sound better by raising my tone, like, pick that thing for me, as if I'm trying to command him. I think that can also serve as positive or as negative, based on the tone of the voice the person is using.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, so we have a situation where, like what he said now, pick the tool for me, and then another tone that suggests otherwise. Okay, same thing, meaning different thing. Then another person is giving an example here from Lucy. She said, I think you're neglecting your duties. Oh, and then it can mean the person is lazy or not diligent. All right. Okay. Then let's hear from Honorable Alani. Please, I kindly on me, let's hear from you.
Good afternoon, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, House.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. From experience, sometimes the situation we find ourselves changes a lot of things from us, within us rather. Like I think something happened yesterday. There's a particular job that has to be done, and I was looking at time, and I need people to support me to make sure that the assignment is being carried out. So I needed people to support me, to join me in there's a service I need to carry out in the office. So in my tone of communication, I met with the PM, production manager. We've discussed this since Thursday, that I need people to support me, and there's nobody. So what do you want me to do? And you're expecting me to carry out this service. And I said, you know what? There's nothing I can do if I didn't see people to support me to do this job. The man was like, Dolapo, take it easy, hold on. I know everybody is busy, but let's see what I can do. Let me call the assistant production manager. So he made the call, and then we were able to carry out. So by 2, I was done with the servicing. So, but what I'm saying is this: if communication is not being managed properly, it can destroy. It could even bring kind of the disagreement within the team. So that is why it's very important to manage communication very well. It's very, very important. It's the key. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Let's assume that Mr. Dolakwa, the manager, said, let me see what I can do. That was a very good tone. What if he had shouted at him and said, Dolakwa, let me see what I can do. Stop stressing my life. I'm sure you would have got to sit down. I said, when you finish on what you can do, then you can call me. Okay. All right. Finally, can we have Lucy? Please, Miss Lucy, Mrs. Lucy, can you unmute? Let's hear from you.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, sir. So I gave an example, but I want to explain a typical example of what happened.
All right.
Like where I work, we have a drugstore, and in the drugstore there is a toilet that is always very clean. So, and usually my supervisor has warned me not to release the key to the store to anyone because of the toilet they do go to use. So there was a particular lady that came and collected the key in my absence. So when she came, instead of me to tell her, this is the situation, I've been warned, I don't want anybody to go there, please kindly not collect the key again, whether in my presence or absence. I just told her, please, don't go to the store again, please don't use the toilet again. So she doesn't know why I reacted that way, or the kind of shouts I've gotten from my own supervisor that made me say that. If I had communicated it well, maybe there wouldn't have been conflict. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So just a slight change in our tone and choice of words can actually spoil communication completely. Can spoil communication completely. It therefore means that we must be very careful. Mr. Godwin is also giving another example here, like be guided. Be guided can mean, okay, follow the instructions. Be guided can mean that you are acting so arrogant, you're acting so rude. Remember, it can be based on context, or it can be based on content of whatever thing that is happening at the moment. Okay. So there is a situation someone can tell you, be guided. Then you can respond and ask the person, is it that I don't know what I'm supposed to do? Are you trying to teach me my job? And there is another way you can tell the person, please, sir, you need to be guided. And the person will say, oh, please, can you help me? All right, so it is important we understand all of this. As simple as these things are, they can either make or mar project execution. Then dimensions of communication activities. Project managers spend most of their time communicating with project team members and other project stakeholders, both internal at all organizational levels and external to the organization. Effective communication builds a bridge between diverse stakeholders who may have different cultural and organizational background, as well as different levels of expertise, perspectives, and interests. Communication activities have many dimensions, including but not limited to the internal dimensions, which focus on stakeholders within the project and within the organization. Then we have the external dimensions, which focus on external stakeholders such as customers, vendors, other project organizations, government, the public, and the environmental advocates. Then we have the formal dimension, which include reports, formal meetings, both regular and ad hoc, meeting agendas, and minutes, stakeholders briefing, and presentation. Then we have the informal, which will include general communications activities using emails, social media, websites, and informal ad hoc discussions. Then we'll also have the hierarchical focus. The position of the stakeholder or the group with respect to the project team will affect the format and the content of the message. Other dimensions include the official and the unofficial, and then we'll have the verbal and oral. Now, note, communication develops the relationships necessary for successful project and program outcomes. So if you want to have a successful project and program outcomes, then you must have effective communication in place. Now, this is a little digression. But please, I would just want us to view it in the light of a case study, not in the light of politics or national concern, so that we don't start bringing up issues that doesn't weigh in this matter. Now, there was a statement that was made by our dear president some few weeks ago that has generated both national or both local and international views to that statement. And that statement relates to what is happening in the southeast in Nigeria, where there had been incident destruction of government properties and government officials, and there had been high rise of insecurity in that area. So the president made a speech or made a statement that said that most of the people that are carrying out those things are the people who never saw what happened during the war. And then he said that they will teach them the lessons that they do understand. Now, that statement has been the most misunderstood or most understood statement in the past 2 to 3 weeks that led to the banning of Twitter and led to several sorts of fights in the House of Rep, and that led to some sort of demarcations even in the presidency. Now, what do you think the president would have done differently to just communicate the same thing, but without any international or local adversaries rising up? Now there is a protest that they said they were going to walk out today, and one of the reasons for that protest was also because of that statement. Now, what do you think the president would have, if you were the president of Nigeria, what would you have said differently? Or if the issue since the issue escalated, what would you have done differently to calm everywhere down? I think I will need a voice in this one. Please note, don't take it as what they call a political statement or whatever. We're only using this as a case study. All right, so I will need someone's hand who will say something, just 1 or 2 persons. If you were the president, you said something and it led to both international and local issues, what would you have done differently to make sure that this situation is well communicated? Do I have someone who will say something? Okay. Honorable Olani, kindly unmute and let's hear from you, sir.
It is well with us.
It is well. So you are now our dear president. So we are waiting for you now.
Sir. First thing is this. Our president is not communicating. There's no enough communication between the presidency and the people that is leading.
Okay, please, before you proceed, let's try as much as we can not to drag it too far. Let's just focus on the statement that he made, how he would have made it better. And since he has made it and there had been issues, if you were the president, what would you have done to subside the whole issue?
Thank you, sir. I will communicate.
Okay. So the first one in the statement, how would you have said it?
Thank you, sir. If I want to say it, the use of that word, we will give them what they understand, or I will give them what they deserve. It's wrong. What could have been said in a better way. It's this way, but we cannot continue damaging our property. It's our property. So there should be a way that we can use to manage this. You shouldn't use negative words because you shouldn't use them too that we make uproar, negative uproar. That's why I said our president has not been communicating.
Thank you for coming. It's okay, we've heard you. Okay, so let's hear from God's power. God's power, please kindly unmute and let's hear you.
Good afternoon to everyone once
You're
again.
welcome. You're welcome.
This is quite an interesting word, but okay. If I'm the president, this is what I'll do, because I believe my choice of word is important because it stirs or something. I believe the first phrase of what that, okay, those that are causing this destruction were not there during the past, stuff. So what I would do, I will try to explain what I mean by that. Like what Mr. Tolani said. He said that because maybe the way he presented it was the people didn't get it clear. He would have let them know that, okay, this is our property. We cannot be destroying our property. We cannot be making things looking bad. After the government, we're still going to tax you to fix those properties. So it is better we don't destroy it. And secondly, we should not advocate for war because war last time is not really good. And it slows Nigeria. It didn't make Nigeria to go further. If possible, if I'm the president, I'm going to apologize for my choice of word and also for communicating wrongly. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. From the chat room, Lucy said choice of word would have been carefully chosen. Esther just said he would have used fellow Nigerians. Mr. Benjamin said he would have said something like promoters of secessionist ideas will be dealt with appropriately. Okay, so this simple thing that had been said, it led to the banning of Twitter. It led to rising up of several licensing opportunities for Nigeria. So you see, conflict brings both the positive and the negative side to it. Now, after the president made that statement, I think there was an interview with BBC, and then they asked him again why he made such statement, and he repeated the same thing, that it's because those people who are doing this thing, they were not there when the war happened. If they were there when the war happened, they won't be doing what they are doing. So they will teach them the language they will understand. Okay, and the woman asked the president, so what do you think they should be doing? The president said, there are other better ways. And please, I will need you to listen carefully. He said, there are other better ways to protest or to agitate for something. They can do writing, they can do referendum, and they can do peaceful protests. And they can also do what we call the town hall meeting, right? Where president and the people be involved. And the woman said to the president, but the people have been calling for a referendum. And he said he has not received so. And the woman asked him, he said, if they now write and call for referendum, will you listen to them? And he answered, he said, why will I listen to them? And the woman said, it's okay. And the woman stopped. So as simple as these sentences could be, they can, you know, the country called Nigeria and every other country in the world, we're all very big projects. So the way we communicate as project managers, as leaders, as heads in our different units, even as people that are not even, we might not be promoted as head, but we know by default we are heads by example. So we should be very careful with the choice of words that we use. Okay, we should be very, very careful with the choice of words that we use. We are talking about the presidency, and it looks as though it's very, very big. In our families, we should be very, very careful with the choice of words we use for our husbands, our wives, and our children. Very, very important. If you say something and your children misinterpret it, please always make sure you tell them exactly what you mean. If you say something your husband or your wife misunderstands it, please make sure you interpret it so that they can understand. And if there is need for an apology does not remove anything. It does not remove any pinch of blood from anybody. And it does not cause any pain. Okay, where there is need for apology, apologize and say the right thing the way it's supposed to be said. Very, very important. What brought us to this is this statement that communication develops the relationships necessary for successful project and program outcomes. Necessary for successful project and program outcomes, whether as small, medium, or big projects, no matter the capacity you find yourself as a project manager, as far as you're a head, an administrator, a HR, a project manager, a manager with whatever capacity, you're a supervisor, you're a team lead, wherever you find yourself, you are a project manager by default, and you're expected to make sure that the communication you put up promises good relationship, not destructive ones. Now, quickly, 5 C's of written communication. If your communication must be in writing, which there is no project that does not involve both oral and written communication. All right. Now, for written communication, please, importantly, there must be correct grammar and spelling. Correct grammar and spelling. Correct. Now, let me be very, very sincere with you. Irrespective of the level of educational qualification and exposure you've been to, the error of grammar and spelling is always present, no matter what you write. And that's why in research work, in expert judgment, we always call for expert review. In fact, as in this class, I just received a mail from someone, a very good someone, I think he's the president of Customer Experience Professionals, yes, CSP, Customer Experience Professionals of Nigeria, or USA, the Nigerian chapter. And I've only met him once, but we've been in communication. He just sent me a mail of a proposal that he wants to do, and he wants me to review it. It won't cost you anything, no matter the level of, no matter your professional qualification, there is always this. Is it what do they call that kind of error? Is it parallel error or what? You will think you are writing it, but you don't know your error of omission. So please, by all means, make sure you use expert review or peer-to-peer review when you are doing written communications as far as project is concerned. Then the other one is concise expression and elimination of excess words. Yes, I said I was going to play a video, and then you will tell me if this video communication was done adequately. All right, so after this particular tips, we will play that video, then you tell me if communication was adequate or not. Then we'll have clear purpose and expression directed to the needs of the reader. Some of us, when we are writing, we get so carried away, especially those of us that do copy and paste. We get so carried away that the information is useful to us, yes, but we no longer care about whether the information is useful to the person we are writing to. We just copy, paste, and then that's it. I was in a training the other day, and someone was making a presentation, and the presentation was awesome, no error, nothing. But the presentation wasn't communicating to us. It wasn't addressing the topic he came to address. And one of the panelists asked the presenter a question. He said, sir, please, don't be offended. Is this a copy and paste presentation? And the man was like, no, it was a research work. And the question was, how will this be a research work? And it is not addressing the topic, but rather everything you're saying is beautiful, but it does not address the topic on ground. So we must learn to have clear purpose and expression directed to the needs of the project. They will have coherent logical flow of ideas. Whether you're making a presentation, whether you're writing a proposal, whether you're writing a charter, whatever thing you're writing there, the information flow must be coherent. If you're writing a letter or making a presentation, is there a way that the conclusion will come first before the body? There is no way. Is there a way that the body will come first, then after that you now introduce the topic? It is not possible. So there is a coherent approach, coherent logical approach to information dissemination. You're writing a report, you're submitting meeting briefing or what have you, you're doing secretarial duties. There must be coherent flow of information, coherent. And these are some of the reasons that you need an expert or you need a fellow to help you review before you dispatch. All right. They will have controlling flow of words and ideas, controlling flow of words and ideas. We just use the example of what is happening in Nigeria as a case study. Okay. The choice of words and ideas and controlling those words. Now, that particular statement that was made by the president, it has actually engendered virtually, it had given sensitivity to every key position in Nigeria. Because I was watching an interview that was conducted whether on AIT or Channels television, I can't remember exactly, but that interview was with one of the top security officials in Nigeria. Whether it is the what they call it, the young man again, Minister of Defense or so. So the question that was addressed to him concerning the statement, and he made mention of something, and that became much more worrying to some of us. They asked him what he has to say about the uproar as regards to the statement of the president, and he said Nigeria is prepared for war, and he said one of the sources through which Nigeria will get soldiers is NYSC. God have mercy. That NYSC is one of those paramilitaries that were instituted. Should there be advent of war, soldiers will be taken from NYC to go and fight war. And that was, to me, it wasn't the right approach. It wasn't a good flow for such kind of discussion. Okay, I think that would have been an opportunity to communicate well what the president was trying to say, not to give more fire or give more heat to the fire that is already burning. All right, so we need to be very, very careful by controlling the flow of words and the ideas that we want to put up by the words we choose. Okay, now 5 C's of written communications are supported by communication skills such as listening actively, awareness of cultural and personal differences, identifying, setting and managing stakeholder expectations, then enhancement of skills like the persuasion skills, negotiation skills, conflict resolution, motivating, and then coaching team members. All of these skills support the 5 C's of written communication. All right. Now, fundamental attributes of effective communication. Every communication must have clarity on the purpose of the communication, defining its purpose as simple and clear as possible. Then number 2, understanding as much as possible about the receiver of the communication, meeting needs and preferences. So who is the stakeholder? Who am I communicating to? Why am I communicating to him? What are his needs? And how does he choose to be communicated to? What are the preferences? Okay, what are his preferences? All of this need to be captured in communication. Okay, someone said my screen is not moving. All right, so let me quickly reshare. Okay, is it moving now? Please, if it's moving, let me know. Please, is it moving? Let me know. If it's moving, kindly type 1. If it is not moving, let me know. Okay, so it's moving. Okay, so back to this place. It's a 5 C's of written communication. We have listening actively. Then we have awareness of cultural and personal effectiveness, identifying, setting, and managing stakeholders' expectation. Then enhancement of skills like persuasion skills, negotiation skills, conflict resolution skills, motivating and coaching team member skills. All of these skills need to be worked on. Now, fundamental attributes of effective communication. Every communication must have clarity of purpose. There must be an objective for every communication. Then we also must work out to understand the person receiving, the audience. We must know our audience. What are their needs? What are their preferences to the information? What exactly do they want to know? And how do they want to receive those information? We must communicate effectively. The monitoring and measuring the effectiveness of the communications also very, very important. Very, very important. Now, trends and emerging practices in project communications management. We have inclusions of stakeholders in project reviews. As it were right now, every project, in reviewing projects, it is important that you get stakeholders to be part of it. On before now, what we normally do is that we'll have the project team review the work, and maybe we'll get an expert to review it alongside, and then we'll proceed. But now it's important that you get the stakeholders' views to your project review so that the change requests will not result to rework. Then we'll have inclusion of stakeholders in project meetings. Inclusion of stakeholders in project meetings, very, very important. Inclusion of project stakeholders in project meetings. The increased use of social computing. We can see that the social media and the use of social inclusions in project communication is becoming overwhelming. Even on default website, we have different discussion groups where communication can go on social basis. Then we have the multifaceted approaches to communication. Communication has become much more multifaceted. It's no longer just as written and oral, just by physical dimension. We have the teleconferencing dimension, the audio conferencing, well, the social media, we have cloud computing and all of that coming to play in communications management. So there are the multifaceted approaches to communication, right? Now, still on communications, looking at tailoring considerations. As we are communicating, as we are developing communications and transmitting communications and monitoring communications, what are the things we need to carefully consider and tailor them and make sure the needs of the communication are tailored towards the people? We have the stakeholders, okay? Communication should be tailored towards the stakeholders. Are they internal or external? Are they present in the facility or not? Are they physical or virtual? That will determine the kind of approach we use. Then the physical location. What is the physical location of team members? Are they co-located? Are they in the same geographical area? Are they distributed? That will also determine the kind of communication you will come up with, or communication strategy will come up with. The communication technology, what technology is available to develop, record, transmit, retrieve, track, and store communication artifacts? What technologies are most appropriate and most cost-effective for communicating to stakeholders? All of these things need to be put into consideration. Then you have the language also. Then you have the knowledge management. All of these things should be tailored accordingly. Now, before we go to the project's communication management processes, let's quickly look at this video. And then all I want us to do is to find out whether this young man communicated effectively or not. Just a moment, and the video will be up. Please, I'm still with you. Okay, so I know some of us know this young man. He's a very reputable Nigerian. So let's find out whether the communication is effective or not. Please, I'm still with you. I'm just trying to get the right setting for this so that we all listen to it together. Okay, can you see my screen, please? Please, can you see my screen? Okay, so if someone is saying no, can't see the screen. So let me share the screen again. So if you can see my screen, just type yes or 1. Okay, so someone is seeing the screen, TVC News. All right, so this is news. So let's find out if this communication was effective or not. So I'm going to play it right now so that we will analyze this communication. All right.
The Chief of Staff to the Governor of Edo State, that is Honorable Patrick Obayagbon. I'm sure it's a delight to have you in this stadium. Honorable Obayagbon, this process, how would you describe it?
Well, the first thing is to say, what is this all about? And to answer your question straight away, let me say that this is the climax of a democratic peregrination among a vaudeville of gubernatorial aspirants seeking a place in the very slippery cockpit of Edo State's political governance. In their quest to do that, for the past 6 months, they have traversed the nooks and crannies of Edo State's political canvas, espousing, philosophizing, pontificating, and depositing their respective political pronunciamentos. You may want to ask me, what are my impressions of these aspirants? I would say that it has been from the sublime to the ridiculous. 1 or 2 of the aspirants have displayed political savvy, and they have proven to some of us, and I want to believe a majority of us, that they have the requisite mental magnitude to be able to steer the ship of state. But for some others, it has been the result of politics of prebendalism and politics of atavism.
Let me tell you, your governments have been accused by some of these aspirants you're talking about, that your governments have been accused of financially inducing some of these delegates, and as a matter of fact, in the last 48 hours, they've been quarantined in different locations, made incommunicado to reach them. How would you react to this allegation?
That is a resort to blackmail. It is cashing on the last straw. It is trying to lock the stable door when the horse has bolted. I want to say, if anybody has said so, it is a campaign of ballyhoo. It shows political diffidence. As far as I'm concerned, I'm the Chief of Staff, by the grace of God, to the Edo State government, and I should be aware, I should be apprised of developments like that happening with the state government.
Do you have an anointed candidate?
I don't know what you mean by anointed candidate. That a congrès of close to 3,000 delegates are convoked in the sacred precincts of Sam Ogbamudia Stadium just now debunks the so-called philosophy of anointing the candidate. Today, all the 12 aspirants shall submit themselves to all of the delegates. In a democracy, the people and only the people are philosopher kings. It is the best candidate acceptable to the people that shall emerge out of this process today. So there is nothing like having an anointed candidate.
Do you see your party coming tops come September 10, because whatever might be the fallout of this particular primaries, some of these aspirants might decide to leave your party? Do you have that such internal mechanism in which you use to resolve crisis?
What the APC is known for is a free and fair and diaphanous political process. the proclivity for political aspirants to devastate and skedaddle from their political platform after a major political contestation is like this is if the process is strewn and laden with a political thalidomide. So that we have put in place a free and fair and diaphanous political ceramics is the first antidote to such exegetical and irresponsible behavior on the part.
All right, for the sake of time, I know we've listened to one or two, but let me play another one, and I think this one we understood it, but let me quickly play another one, and I know we will understand that one too. Just a moment. Just a moment. Okay. Please, I would like us to listen very, very attentively to this one. I'm very sure we will understand this one very well. Please, the first one that played, did we all hear it clearly? Did we hear the first one clearly? Okay. Okay, so let's if we can hear clearly, let's just listen to this one. And please, when you finish, you now tell us what you understood. Okay.
Prof, we're all aware of the current situation in our country, Nigeria. It's 1 week, one drama, followed with unending accusations and questions unanswered. First, we have the $25 billion that belongs to the NNPC that was swallowed by the cabal. 2, we have the 203 million naira that belongs to the IDP camp that was swallowed. 3, we have the 36 million naira that belongs to the JAMB office that was swallowed by a snake.
Yes, Nigeria just now is in a political hogomondogos muwe.
Muwe?
Yes, the muwe tie. Google it. We are in a debilitating, lobotomizing, and ignominious political muahaha.
Really?
Political yo, political holy-poly. Tell Mr. President, we are tired of their mendacilloquence, prostitute, and zabanism.
Zabanism?
Yes, mendacilloquence, telling lies in an awful way, prostitute, propaganda, zabanism, abuse and misuse of the military.
Quick. Professor, you have just mentioned 2 words in Hausa. Rabbanism is a situation whereby you share responsibility to your relative, your friends, your cousins. Now, the issue of Sabanism, you are used to them. So, if you want to even work and the people you are used to, you can't even fight them. And with the way the Sabanism and Rabbanism is, ba za a samu canjin ba. So, a taimaka a cire Rabbanism da Sabanism domin shi yake bata gwamnati. So I think, Professor, you are even working with us. So in your English, you including even Hausa, Rabbanism, and Sabanism.
Okay, so who understood that one now? I'm sure we understood that one, right? Who understood all of the communications that have been passed through here? So if you understood everything, just type. If this communication was actually accurate or perhaps effective, you think is an effective communication, just type 1 word in the chat room. If you think there was something wrong with the communication, maybe you could put in the chat room also. We are rounding up now. We are going through the processes, and after that we round up. Are we together? Please, if you're still with me, can you type 1 in the chat room? Okay, so what do you think was wrong with these communications? Obviously, there was something wrong with them. So what do you think was wrong with these communications? The first one and the second one, what do you think was wrong with the communications? If you wish to raise your hand, please, the platform is open. What do you think was wrong with the communications? Okay, so someone said big grammar. All right. Honorable Olani, kindly unmute. Grammars are too much. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Well done, sir. Yeah.
You heard all of them clearly, right?
Clearly.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, the two video,
Yes, sir.
they're not communicating because the choice of words, we don't even understand the grammars. Why can't we use this simple language that people will understand better? Though they are passing message, to be sincere, from my understanding, they are passing message to us, but the use of grammar, they are not communicating to us. As if you call yourself professional, you are professor, you are just professor for yourself. So use the word that people understand so that they can use that. Because if we are talking about effective communication, the use of word is very important. Because when somebody is not understand what you are saying, you're not communicating. You're not communicating. So there's no effective communicating there.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, so from the chat room, we have big grammar too much, simple. Okay, so from Esther Ejo, I think it's a simple and direct. Okay, from Mr. Benjamin said the two videos displayed lack of effective communication. The language used by two of them are inappropriate. Okay, so thank you so much. I'm going to share a very simple experience I had. I don't know if any one of us here have had such experience. When I was in my SS class, from SS1, SS2, my English teacher used to write letter to my parents that my vocabulary was too high for me. So he will write to my father and write to my mother that if I continue this way, I will not pass WAEC. That they will think another person is writing the WAEC for me. And while we were in primary school, if you can remember, from primary school to maybe JS3, JS2, they will always tell us, increase your vocabulary. So one of the things I used to do then was I sleep with dictionary. So I find as many words as possible to interchange whatever thing I'm going to say. So I didn't know, maybe I was doing it on the extreme side that was going to be detrimental. And when I speak in class those days, they would tell me, explain. The teacher would say, explain what you said. And like joke, we came to JAM. We came to WAEC. And English language that I was supposed to, at least if I did not pass, I should be getting it. Maybe English language is not our mother tongue. Maybe I should be getting it like C5 or C4, worst case scenario. Do you know what I scored? I scored D7 in English. Big D with small 7 at the base. And immediately my teachers, that was the out of 9 subjects, that was the only course or the only subject I had a D. Other ones were A and B. It was the only one that I had D. And then immediately my teacher saw that result. He said to my parents, I told you people, this is vocabulary was going to cause harm to him. And they said, thank God it wasn't an E, and it wasn't an F. Okay, so because I got D7, I did not study medicine as I wanted to study. I studied another course, but thank God I did not study medicine anyway. Okay. All right, so when we trying to build vocabulary does not necessarily mean that by speaking our vocabulary, we are now improving on our communication. It doesn't. When I was in year 1 in school, my lecturers then, if a question was asked in class and perhaps it landed on me and I answer, they would say, can you make it simple? Can you use a simple language? And then my staff advisor started calling my attention and started saying to me that if you keep speaking this kind of grammar, you will not pass functional English and use of language in this university. So better start learning small words. And that was where I started rethinking the whole aspect of going to private school and teaching us to improve our vocabulary, then coming to write WAEC and they are telling me to reduce the vocabulary and going to university. So all of these things, in my opinion, communication should be simple, not bogus. Communication should be straightforward, not carrying dictionary. You remember people like Wolo Senka, if you're asking him questions, you need to actually come with a dictionary. Okay, I was watching an interview recently where he was being interviewed, and he will speak something, the whole house will be like, hey, then he will explain what he has said. Now, the time he's using to explain those things, the time that communication would have just been passed straight. Maybe by the time he finished the explanation of the word, people have forgotten the statements that brought the word. So we need to be as simple as possible and clear as possible when communicating, all right? And also we need to understand that there is a difference between technical words and jargons. There's a difference between technical words and jargons. Technical words and jargons. Jargons is using maybe an assumed big word in a context that it does not fit. Technical word could be a big word, but it is used in a context that is fit. So if you're a professional, there are technical words that must be used in explaining certain things. But when you bring jargons into technical words, you spoil the whole communication. I trust I'm communicating. Okay. So now, before we proceed, do we have any question? Do we have any contribution, any comment? Because we are about rounding up. Any question, any contribution? Any question, any contribution? Please, can we make that fast? Any question, any contribution? Any question or contribution before we round up? I said any question or contribution. I know attendance will come. Any question or contribution? Okay, attendance will not be passed in this class anyway. Attendance will pass in the second class, which is by 2 o'clock. Sorry, by 4 o'clock rather, by 4 p.m. So our last class for today will be by 4 p.m. And that's when we'll pass attendance, all right? Okay, please go ahead. If you have a question, you can unmute. You can just raise your hand and unmute. Let's have your question. Where is your name? All right, please kindly unmute and let's have your question.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, my question is where you were talking about communication activities,
okay,
and their dimensions.
Okay.
I think the last one there was written and oral.
Yes, please.
Yes, I don't understand it. I'm trying to understand it.
Okay, written. The
Yes,
one
sir.
that is penned down, that's written. Then oral, the one that is spoken. So we have dimensions that can be written. You can communicate via writing. You can communicate via oral. Does that make sense to you? Are you still there? Okay, you've got it. So written, writing of letter, writing of lesson note, writing of proposal, writing of plans, and all of that. Then oral, the ones that are spoken, voice, they are not written, they are voice, oral. Okay. Okay. Most often the written ones are they are most often the non-verbal. Then the spoken words are the oral or the verbal words. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So now let's round up this class. So what are the processes? We have the number one process, which is plan communications management. Plan communications management is the process of developing an appropriate approach and plan for project communication activities based on information needs of each stakeholder group, available organizational assets, and the need of the project. The key benefit of this process is a documented approach to effectively and efficiently engage stakeholders by presenting relevant information in a timely manner. This process is performed periodically throughout the project as needed. Now, in the inputs for communication planning, we have the project charter, we have the project management plan, where we'll look at the resource management plan and the stakeholders engagement plan. Then we have the project document, where we look at the requirements documentation and stakeholder register. Then we'll have the enterprise environmental factors, and then we'll have organizational process assets. On the tools and technique, we have the expert judgment, we have the communications analysis, communication requirements analysis, we have the communication technology, communication models, communication methods, interpersonal and team skills like communication styles, assessment, political awareness, cultural awareness. Then we have number 7, data representation, where we'll look at stakeholder engagement assessment matrix, and then we'll have the meetings. Because of time, I may not take all the time to explain this, but I'm sure we will have all the time to explain this in subsequent discussions as we move toward the revision weeks. Okay, another recommendation I want to make here is for all of us that have gotten our study materials, please don't just focus on the slides. Try as much as you can to open the project management book of knowledge and read through it. Read through it to understand each of these components, the applications, and how they are being used, the content and the context that they are being used. Please, if you are studying this project management for practice purposes, I am giving you the challenge to make sure that you complete the project management book of knowledge from A to Z before this whole class is over. Make sure you complete that guide from A to Z before this class is over. This class is for 3 months. So in 3 months, the total volume for level, for associate is about 600 and something pages. And for senior is about 900 and something pages. So if you're senior, make sure in 3 months you finish the project management book of knowledge, the one that concerns you. If you're for associate, please make sure you finish the one that concerns you between the time we started and when we end. Please, it's very, very important, so that we don't just focus on slides only. All right, slide will not allow us to discuss everything. All right. Okay. Now, in the outputs, communications management plan, project management plan updates, where we'll be updating the stakeholders engagement plan. And then we'll have the project documents update, where we'll be having a project schedule, stakeholder register. Now, the next one is managing communications. After you might have planned communication, you manage the communication to ensure that it is efficient and effective. Managing communications is the process of ensuring timely and appropriate collection, creation, distribution, storage, retrieval, management, monitoring, and the ultimate disposition of project information. The key benefit of this process is that it enables an effective or efficient and effective information flow between the project team and the stakeholders. This process is performed throughout the project. The managed project communication process identifies all aspects of effective communication, including choice of appropriate technologies, methods, and techniques. In addition, it should allow for flexibility in the communication activities, allowing adjustment in the methods and techniques to accommodate the changing needs of stakeholders and the project. Now, in the input, we have the project management plan, where we look at the resource management plan, communications management plan, stakeholder management plan. Then we have the number 2 project documents, change log, issue log, lessons learned register, quality report, risk report, stakeholder register. Then we have work performance report, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. On the tools and techniques, we have communication technology, communication methods, communication skills, project management information system, project reporting, interpersonal and team skills. Then we have the meetings. On the output, we have the project communications, project management plan updates, project documents updates, organizational process assets updates. And then finally, monitoring communications. My time is actually up, so I just have 1 minute, and I will just go through this. When we come back by 4, we'll just summarize this and perhaps have some time to discuss some of the key things that are mentioned, and then we will go to another section. Please, our next session is by 4 p.m. Nigerian time and 3 p.m. Ghana time. All right. Monitor and control communications is the process of ensuring the information needs of the project and its stakeholders are met. The key benefit of this process is the optimal information flow as defined in the communication management plan and stakeholder engagement plan. This process is performed throughout the project. In the input, we have the project management plan, we have the project documents, work performance data, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. Then on the tools and techniques, we have expert judgment, project management information system, data analytics, interpersonal and team skills, and meetings. On the output, we have work performance, information, change requests, project management plan updates. Then we have the project documents update. Now, important tips to creating a communication plan. communication strategy. Number one, develop a purpose. Number two, determine the key players, that's the stakeholders involved. Discuss roles and responsibilities, determine the preferred way of communication, determine the frequency of communication, and be open to change. The tips on ways to improve project communication: set project expectations, build a strong team culture, run effective meetings, ask questions, take advantage of collaborative tools, and then focus on non-verbal communications. Now, this is a group work we are meant to do. The one we did, the group work, we still have pending group work that is yet to be submitted. Pending group work that is meant to be discussed, rather. We are not submitting group work, we only discuss them. All right, so you have been invited to serve as a project communication manager in the 2021 All African Games to hold in Ghana. You have been requested to make a presentation to the Governing Board of African Union Sports Council on the following: the most appropriate communication method and why, and then to discuss the strategies for effective communication all through the project, and then effective approaches to monitoring communication all through the project. Now, please, can we all screenshot this, work on this? When we come by 4, we'll look at it. Can we all screenshot this? Can we all screenshot this? And then, or perhaps let me see if I can copy it and then pass it to everyone. Can we all screenshot this? Okay, so I'm pasting the assignment in the WhatsApp group. Okay. I've posted the assignment now in the WhatsApp group. So let's discuss it. And when we come back by 4, we'll present it. Any question for me as we round up? Any question for me as we round up? Please, any question, any contribution? Is there anyone here who is not in the WhatsApp group? Okay. Is there anyone here who paid for study material and has not gotten the study materials? You paid for study material, you've not gotten study material. Is anyone like that here? Okay, so everyone has gotten their study materials. Okay, so if you are here and you've not paid for your study materials, please, we encourage you to do so that we can all be in the same page. All right? Okay, so thank you so much for your time. We will be reconvening by 4 p.m. Nigerian time and 3 p.m. Ghana.